Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Crystal Upperman of Deloitte Consulting LLP and Elizabeth Sturcken of the Environmental Defense Fund.
Well, thank you, everyone. I am Dr. Crystal Upperman. I'm a senior manager at Deloitte. I've been an environmental and climate activist all my life. I have to say that, I presently am a person who serves on the Board of Scientific Counselors for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Board of Scientific Counselors for the Office of Research and Development. I'm also a trustee for the Nature Conservancy Maryland, D.C. chapter. I serve on the American Public Health Association Advisory Council for Climate and Health, and also I'm a member of the board for We Act for Environmental Justice. At Deloitte, I help our public sector clients address sustainability, climate, and climate equity issues. And I have the pleasure today of being joined by Elizabeth Sturcken. Elizabeth, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Crystal. I'm Elizabeth Sturcken, Managing Director at Environmental Defense Fund. I work with business. I've been at EDF my entire career, always leading corporate partnerships with leading companies such as FedEx, Walmart, and others. And the whole goal is to get them to act and lead and show others the way and work to create policy to bring everyone along.
Well, Elizabeth, you didn't mention Project Gigaton that you've been involved in early in your career. Did you want to mention a little bit about that before we dive in?
Sure. The personal story is I came back from maternity leave and things were getting going with Walmart. They saw potentially an opportunity to lead on climate, but it was all very secret. But EDF was willing to work with them. We don't take money from the companies we partner with. And I came back and I said, that's going to be big. We need to move faster and we need to move at scale. And if anyone can do it, Walmart can. And so we got them to take the first supply chain carbon reduction goal, which they met and exceeded, and gave them the confidence to set Project Gigaton.
Awesome. So we're here to chat about a new tool that's being launched, but this is really interesting to hear about organizations taking a step forward and actually advancing. It's really a pressing moment right now. People care about this issue. In fact, at Deloitte, our 2023 survey of Gen Z and millennials showed that actually millennials really care about these issues, and so do Gen Zers. 60 to 55% of those actually care about this issue, and that it ranks in the top 3 for all millennials on top of public health, healthcare costs, and also cost of living. So they really care about whether companies are actually addressing climate change. Aside from that, it's not only just people. We did a survey of C-suite level leaders within organizations across the US, and what it showed was that 61% of those C-suite leaders who are responsible for sustainability, they really saw that climate change was going to impact their business operations for the next 3 years. And that was fascinating. But to add another point on top of that, those people, those C-suite level individuals, they themselves, 81% had been personally impacted by climate change. So we're seeing people, we're seeing corporations being impacted, and we're seeing the people helping the corporations being impacted. So this is why, this tool actually helps alleviate barriers for folks to go faster and get there, in a rapid speed. So tell me, what is this accelerator and tool that we're launching today?
Yeah, the Net Zero Action Accelerator, which is netzeroaction.org, is a web hub that EDF just launched. It is meant to bring the best of what we do in terms of science, market-based knowledge, policy, finance, all of those pieces, and with other partners like Deloitte and Oxford Net Zero and others, Race to Zero, for example, pull those things together and guide companies. It is so complex. So many companies cannot figure out what to do. So this is prioritized action, and the tools and technologies and help and resources in addition to trainings to help companies get on the path. I just want to say, Crystal, that it's a hard time right now. It's really overwhelming. I am from San Francisco, and my husband just sent me a photo, and the air is smoky yet again from fires in Oregon. And the global stock take came out, and we've got a lot we need to do. But the thing that honestly gives me hope, it's your generation, it's my daughter's generation. You are not gonna accept anything but leadership and addressing climate change. And companies, and I know this from working with them for 25 plus years, once they get on this journey of sustainability and they are ambitious on climate and they bake it into their business, there is a positive feedback loop. There are business returns, right? It is positive. That doesn't mean it doesn't cost anything, but it's PR, but it's so much more. It's supply chain risk reduction, it's new customers, it's employee engagement. It is what everyone expects. And this is a positive feedback loop, and companies continue to step up and do more. I think it's a path to choose, right? It's either trillions of dollars of cost if we don't address it, or trillions of dollars of business economic opportunity, and that's the choice. So I think the message for every single company here and out there is act now, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help companies move from pledges to progress. We need to not spend a lot of time measuring and reporting. We need to get going now and acting.
That's certainly true, Elizabeth. And now is the time. A lot is at stake. A lot is at stake. One of the things that we always talk about that's at stake is corporations that move further, faster. They are able to showcase that their values align with the values of the talent out there that they actually need to help them solve the problem. What have you seen in that regard?
Well, at our launch on Monday, LinkedIn mentioned some data that they just had on green jobs. There's a lot out there, and in terms of a need for green skills, every single company is really trying to address this. And the Net Zero Action Accelerator from EDF is really meant to give companies the really practical guidance. It is free. There's no paywall. It's meant to be open to everyone, and for companies to just get going on this journey and then dive a little deeper and do the trainings and try and understand what needs to happen. Because it's just, we really need to create this positive flywheel. I know you've seen it at Deloitte. I have seen it in my years that once we get going, there is this positive momentum. So I'm just hoping to get more companies to act. I mean, that is the simple, basic goal of the Net Zero Action Accelerator.
Awesome. And can you tell us a little bit about the science behind the tool, the process that EDF went through to develop this tool?
Thanks for saying that. I think that's one of the things, if not the thing, that makes this unique and really value add, I hope, for companies, because again, we've wasted so much time, really. We don't have time to mess up and do the wrong things. We need to do things that are scientifically valid and robust. With short-lived climate pollutants, we need to address methane. We need to develop hydrogen in a very responsible way for the right applications. For example, we need to have the ability to use flexible mechanisms such as high-integrity carbon credits on the path to net zero. So it's meant to really zero in on, okay, what's the science, what are the practical tools, and how do we get this done?
Awesome. And Elizabeth, I really have to opine at some point, because seeing organizations, corporations take this action, figure out where they can reduce emissions, this is directly tied to reducing environmental impacts in populations that are bearing the brunt of these contamination that is in turn impacting their health. So we're seeing that there's a tool right now that you've built that organizations can make sure that they're reducing emissions across the board. Are any sentiments across the board in regards to how that ties further into the mission alignment of many organizations and also achieving SDG goals?
Yeah, I guess my goal is for companies not to have a separate climate plan, to just have a business plan, and de rigueur, it's baked in. Climate is baked in, nature is baked in, and people are, in the sense that meeting the needs of this generation and future generations is just in what they do, right? That there's nothing separate and apart called environmental justice, that this is what you do as a company, as a good citizen, but just as a company. It's a part of the license to operate, and it's a part of how you succeed and thrive as a business going forward. So that's my goal, and so right now we have to have the conversation of this is what this looks like, and here's what you do, and try and make it simple and actionable for companies, and that's what the Net Zero Action Accelerator is all about.
Awesome, I echo that sentiment. You know, it all is aligned together. So as we think about our attendance here today, in this forum next year, what are your aspirations? I have a few aspirations because I've seen the tool, I've used it, I really appreciate and value it. What would you like to see from those of us engaged in this conversation next year?
Well, I'd love for people to use the tool and to drive action. The truth is, I don't care if you use the tool as long as you act in a science-aligned, prioritized way. I think this tool is a great way to guide you as companies. Get going now and talk about what you're doing as a company. Be transparent about what you're doing that's successful. We need the positive stories. We need to learn from others, and also be transparent about what you're doing that isn't working. We've run out of time to do anything but just go forward fully and act with intention to achieve a science-aligned target. There's just no other path forward, frankly. So I guess what I'm hoping for next year is we come back here and the companies can talk about all of the actions that they're doing, not how they're measuring and how they're reporting. I know there are a lot of regulatory requirements that are coming on that front, and I know you need to do that as companies. But I want companies to come back here and talk about what they're doing to get on a science-aligned path, the projects they're doing, the finance that they're investing in, the policies that they're advocating for, and communicate that, and communicate the success stories, and be honest about this, and inspire others to move further and faster.
I appreciate that. The inspiration part is necessary, especially in an era where organizations feel like they can or can't speak up. You know, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You speak about, you know, a lot of the positives. You're like beholden to committing to them.
Yes.
Any thoughts on navigating that communication and the tool being an underpinning for that?
Well, I realize it's a fraught time for many companies, and so what I see a lot of them doing is being afraid and maybe stepping back from communicating or stepping back from taking a new pledge. We need to not operate from a place of fear. I mean, this in our personal lives and this in our corporate lives. The companies that are succeeding and thriving and creating a new business path are the ones that are aspiring to create a new world. And you know, I think every single company can be on that journey. So they use the Net Zero Action Accelerator to figure out what they need to do, what are the steps, how do we go forward, what are the big opportunities using the 25 pathways that we have and the more 75 customizable action steps to get some really customized guidance on as to what to do, right? Get going on that and start talking about it.
Awesome. Well, I really wish we had way more time to talk about this, Elizabeth. This has been fascinating. Thank you to you and your team at EDF for pulling together and launching this accelerator to help organizations go faster. My hope is that we come back here next year and we have a host of companies who have used the tool, have made progress on their journey to achieve net zero, addressing both, you know, all of their scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions across the board, but really, really appreciate and commend you for this hard pressing work.
Thanks, Crystal. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.